Welcome everyone to the CMS Hub Developer Lunch, Learn, and Ask Us Anything. We're really excited to get started. We're trying to do more of these touch points with our developer community, and we're really excited that you've taken the time out of your busy days to spend some time with us and learn a little bit more about the CMS developer experience at HubSpot. So without further ado, I'll go into our agenda. For the first few minutes, we'll just be doing some HubSpotter intros, and I'll walk you through a little bit of housekeeping. We have some great React boilerplate demo, as well as some exciting developer news that's coming up right after that. Then we're going to go into some of your submitted questions. So thanks to all of you who submitted questions in advance. And then we're going to block off the last 10 minutes for live questions. So first things first, as you all are aware, we are recording, so just keep that in mind. We encourage you to actively use the chat tool within Zoom webinar to connect with your peers. If you have direct questions for us for the live Q&A period, please use the Q&A tool at the bottom of your screen, and we'll be able to ask those questions live. And of course, in chat and in your questions, just be awesome, be cool, be kind, as you all are, and we're gonna make this a really fun 45 minutes. Before we jump in to these two awesome talks that we're gonna get, I would love us to spend some time doing a little introductions of the HubSpotters that are on the call right now. So I'll kick it off and I'll kind of nominate folks as I go. I am SJ Morris, that's SJ stands for Sarah Jane. I lead our developer programs and a lot of our developer community initiatives. And I'm gonna be your host for this event, and I will hand it over to Will Spiro.
Cool, hello everybody. My name is Will Spiro. I'm the product manager here at HubSpot, who works on a few of the teams that build out the tools for CMS developers. So thank you all for joining and looking forward to talking more.
Thanks. How about Will Murray? You jump in now.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Will Murray. I'm another Will on the CMS developer team. I work as a product designer, and I'm looking forward to presenting some updates today.
How about you, Gregory?
Hi, everyone. I'm Gregory, musician turned developer, turned engineer, and yeah, I'm going to share some cool stuff we have.
AJ?
Hey, I'm AJ. I am a developer advocate here on HubSpot's team, and you guys have probably seen me in the Slack a lot of times if you're on the developer Slack.
All right, Matt Coley?
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm the tech lead on the CMS developer infrastructure team, everything that touches the design manager.
Awesome. John?
Hi, I'm John, and I'm one of our CMS developer advocates. I work a lot on our documentation and tutorials.
And we can see Micah's handsome picture there lurking, but I think we're going to leave him on the down low for now, just because he's watching our audience come in and things like that, and less of a question response panelist role there. All right, so I'm going to kick off with the demo and some exciting stuff from both Will and Gregory. I will stop sharing my screen now and hand it over to you, Will.
Awesome. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, my name is William Murray. I'm product designer on the CMS developer experience team. And today I'm going to cover a few updates that are available today or coming soon. And I hope you're excited to hear about them. For starters, we'll be listing themes in the HubSpot Asset Marketplace beginning on June 1st. And filling the marketplace with artfully crafted themes will ensure that CMS Hub customers building websites using marketplace assets have the best experience. So if you want to build a theme for a marketplace, we encourage you to review the updated requirements and ensure that your submission meets them. And speaking of new themes, we'll soon be adding the ability to create a theme in the design manager. You'll have the option to start with a blank theme that contains only the required JSON files, or you can use the boilerplate theme as a starting point. And the boilerplate theme really represents our recommended best practices for themes, and it meets all the requirements I mentioned for marketplace theme submissions, so it's well worth a look. I'd also like to note that in the same vein, we're working to bring the ability to create serverless functions to Design Manager. We'll have more info on that in the future. And that's not all we're bringing to Design Manager. You'll soon be able to view and clone all the default modules and HubSpot themes via a new @HubSpot folder. So there's no more searching for modules by name to reveal them in the Finder. It'll be just a few clicks away. The boilerplate theme isn't the only open source project we've been working on either. The new event registration app uses all of the CMS Hub's latest features to bring event registration functionality to your website. And you can check it out at the GitHub repo link. Another open source project I'd like to introduce today is the CMS React Boilerplate app. This project will build an app for modules on CMS Hub. I'll turn things over to Gregory now for a quick demo.
All right. I hope everyone is doing well. Now it's some demo time, which I always love. To be honest with you, I think I'm more excited right now than I've been in maybe at least a month. Yeah, so with that, let's get started here. So, with the launch of CMS Hub and over the course of the last year, we've been working really hard to create a really great local development experience. And one of the reasons for that is so that we can, so that you, this broad developer community, can take advantage of the rich ecosystem that's available to us as web developers and front-end developers. And one of the hot libraries that's has lots of traction is React. And so we've been playing around with that internally. And I thought it would be cool to share a little boilerplate so that others can quickly spin up a little React app and use that inside of your CMS website. So yeah, let's do that right now. The CLI has this create command, and we've added a new feature. So if you update to the latest version of CLI, you'll have this. You can do HS create React app. And today we're going to create a little to-dos app. To-dos app in the React world is kind of like the hello world of React. I'm going to go ahead and run that. It's going to go ahead and create a project here. And I'm going to go ahead and just open that project in my favorite editor, which happens to be Vim, longtime user. Okay, so yeah, so this looks like a pretty standard front-end project. It has a package.json that has its dependencies. We're using Webpack to build the project. And so I need to install those dependencies. So I'm going to run yarn install, which is very similar to npm install. And it's going to go ahead and install those dependencies. While that's happening, we're going to go ahead and start making some modifications to the boilerplate to build this to-dos app. And unfortunately, I'm going to do these modifications pretty fast and not go into the super fine points of it because we have limited time and I want to make sure we have plenty of time for all of your questions. So to start off, I need to rename some stuff because I'm building a to-dos app, not a little boilerplate app here. So I'm going to change the names of the files that I'm creating and the destination of the files in the design manager here to to-dos app. So this is going to upload all of the files to the to-dos-app directory in the design manager. And I'm going to be creating a to-dos-app JavaScript file and CSS file. Okay. Inside of this boilerplate, we're focusing on modules at this stage, but you can use it for other things as well. It comes with just a simple little module here, and I'm just going to tweak it a little bit. I'm going to rename the module folder to to-dos app because that's what this is. I'm going to go in and modify the label of the module. So one of the features that we've added is the ability when you're working locally with building out of modules to have a label which is shown in the page editor and elsewhere that is distinct from the name of the folder. Just makes things better, basically. So we'll do that. Then we're going to go into module.html, which has our HTML and Hubble, and rename the two require calls here that are bringing in our CSS and JavaScript. Yeah, and so at this point, I'm sure that we're done installing all of our dependencies, and we're ready to start really coding this to-dos app and get it into HubSpot. So in the package.json, there's a start script that's going to build the project using Webpack. And once everything's built, it's going to automatically upload the files that are built up into HubSpot. So at this point, yeah, it's building the project and uploaded everything into HubSpot. I can go into the design manager and see, oh, yep, I have my todos-app.css, todos-app.js. I have my module. I can also just go ahead and lock this folder so that other folks know that really this is something that is being built outside of HubSpot and pushed in. So we have that there. Now let's go ahead and use that module. So we'll create a page using one of the default themes that come with CMS Hub. I'm a pretty big fan of Vitality, so we'll go with that. And we're going to call this page To-Dos. Okay, so all of the default themes make heavy use of drag and drop areas, which create a drag and drop page building experience. Very key feature of CMS Hub and themes. And so we're going to go ahead and take advantage of that. We're cleared out. We're going to find our To-Dos app, this module we have. We're going to drop it in here. And voila, we have this little React app that's been inserted, that's bundled up into a module and available for someone to put onto a page in HubSpot. And yeah, it's running. But that doesn't look at all like a To-Dos app. So let's change that now. Okay, so we'll flip back over to the editor here. And at this point, I want to edit my React app and the CSS that's involved there. And to do so, I'm not going to like write all this code on the fly. I'm going to take advantage of having written it beforehand and doing a lot of copy and paste. So we'll take our app.js, which is sort of the main React component that has our app, and we'll replace that with a version that does this little to-dos thing. I also need a to-do component here. So we'll grab that. And every time I'm saving and whatnot, it's automatically rebuilding the project. There's probably some errors because I don't have all the pieces I need just yet, but that's just happening in the background. I'm not even thinking about it. So I got that. Okay, and then the last piece is I need some CSS or SAS here. Whoops. Okay, and boom, boom. We got that. So at this point, we'll flip back over to the terminal, make sure everything's built. Yep, we've built this thing out. It's been automatically uploaded. I can reload that, and whoa, we got a little to-dos app inside of a page here. And yeah, let's just flip over to the preview here, and let's try it out. Finish my demo. I'd be happy to click complete on that one. Demos are stressful. Anyway, yeah. So so at that point, I've got this React project. I'm able to use React. I can pull in other libraries. There's all kinds of cool stuff that I can do. And I can create modules that then integrate with the rest of the CMS in a seamless way. So I think that that's pretty cool. And one thing we really want to better understand are like, what are the kind of recipes that will be helpful for you? We want to be able to help all of the developers get up and running with the kind of projects that they're looking to build on the CMS as fast as possible, and also continue to increase the capabilities. So, at this point, this isn't saving the data anywhere. We could, if you were using CMS Hub Enterprise, you could save the data using serverless functions and save it into HubDB, or even some third-party service that will allow you to save the data, and then we could retrieve it and pull it in. There's really so many possibilities here, and we want to make sure that, help you achieve those. So, yeah, this is an open source project in terms of the code, both the code and the CLI, by the way, and the Webpack plugin. So feel free to check them out. If you hit issues or whatnot, you can open issues. Yeah, so that's my demo. sorry it was so fast, but we really wanted to make sure that there was plenty of time for questions.
Thank you so much, Gregory. That was awesome. Definitely check out the chat. People seem to be really excited. So that was fantastic. So we're going to jump into the questions portion now. So as I mentioned earlier, a bunch of you sent in some fantastic questions. So we're going to start in with some of those pre-submitted questions, and then we'll move to the live portion. So we're going to start with the first question, and Spyro, we'll hand this one over to you. How do I get started with themes and local development?
Yeah, great question. So I know a lot of developers are hearing a lot about themes and the new local development tools, and we wanted to make a really easy way to get started with all of it. So we built a brand new getting started guide that gets you up and running with the new local development tooling. It scaffolds out a boilerplate theme based off of the open source theme boilerplate, and then gets that uploaded into a CMS developer sandbox account or an existing CMS account if you already have one. So I would definitely recommend going through that quick start guide. It only takes about 5 minutes to get up and running with the CLI, themes, and the boilerplate. And it will give you a great taste of how you can get started with these new concepts, and then also a great jumping off point for extending the theme to actually meet the requirements of a project you're working on. So definitely check out that getting started tutorial. I think John and AJ just sent it out in the chat there, but that's definitely the best place to get started.
Yeah, it was posted in the chat. We're definitely going to send this to all of you via email as well. Next question, also for you, Will. When can we expect smart content and custom modules? Personalization is a huge reason people love the CMS, but you can't harness its full potential when you can't use it in custom modules.
Yeah, this is a great question. I also wanted to say thank you to everyone for the persistence on this question. I think people have been asking this question at every single developer event for the past few years, and it's probably the #1 idea on the ideas forum right now for CMS development. And probably for the first time, I'm really excited to tell you all that this is actually something we're actively working on. We heard you, we've been hearing you for the past few years, and it's finally something that we are prioritizing. And the team that works on building the content editors have finalized all the designs for it, and now they're actually working sort of on the implementation phase of adding this in. So while I don't have an exact time frame for you all, I will let you know that this is actively being worked on, and I hope very soon we can start to deliver that to you all and your customers. So thanks for the persistence and keeping letting us know that you wanted it. We heard it, and now we're working on it.
Awesome, thanks, Will. Third question, is there any chance of allowing Hubble to be used in CSS or JS sections of modules? This would be useful. Matt Coley, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, this is a great question. I actually had the same question when I joined the developer infrastructure team about 1.5 years ago. And the answer is a little bit more subtle than I initially realized. So it all comes back to how HubSpot optimizes your assets in the CMS. If we look at regular JS and CSS files, when you publish changes to those, we kick off a process that reinterprets the Hubble and then uploads those files to the CDN. That allows these files to be cached and served efficiently using newer technologies such as HTTP2. Now, when we look at like module.js and CS, the same thing happens. When you publish a change to the content there, we do the same thing where we interpret the Hubble and then statically push that up to the CDN. What that means is that JS or CSS has to be applicable across all module instantations. So even if the HTML of the module changes based on the fields of the module, the CSS and JS is just one file that's uploaded to the CDN. When we talk about using Hubble within CSS, there's sort of 2 use cases that I see. One is generating CSS, and the other one is using module fields in CSS. Because of the static generation, it's not really possible to use module fields directly in CSS, but I definitely think it's possible that in the future we would allow you to use Hubble to generate CSS more efficiently using things like variables that aren't natively included. Hubble provides a lot more additional functionality than is natively available in CSS, so we could see you being able to use Hubble to generate CSS, but not necessarily be able to use module fields directly in Hubble in the module CSS.
Great, thank you so much. Next question. I think I'll let John McLaren answer this one. Can you please elaborate on the limitations on using the new features and themes, such as drag and drop areas? For example, I would like to see why we should still evaluate custom module development to have a module in 2 columns rather than making it possible via drag and drop. How about the existing sites?
The new D&D area feature makes it so you can empower the marketer to create tons of layouts. So one way that I kind of think of it is there's kind of this, I don't mean to coin a term, but sometimes people build what I would call super modules, where they make a module that has a lot of features and a lot of options and can create a bunch of layouts. And that might be good for a certain customer and a certain user, like end user. But at other times, it may make sense to make smaller modules that then the marketer and the end user can then rearrange and create sections that create a styled appearance for them through the drag and drop editor. The difference between D&D and flexible columns, which is also sort of hinted in this question, is that instead of it being a one-directional vertical positioning of these modules in a flex column, with drag and drop areas, they actually have horizontal control. They can make a module take up 2 columns and another module next to it take up multiple columns. So really it depends on what the requirements for your project are as to whether you should go the route of having a bigger module that should be, say, full width and has a lot of options, or if it makes more sense to build smaller chunks that can then be rearranged and duplicated by the marketer to create dozens of extra layouts that you couldn't already do without a lot of extra pre-preparation and development.
Thanks, John. Question 5. I think we'll give this one to Gregory. Are there any cookbook projects that we can mess around with to get a code base of a practical application?
Yeah, so when it comes to the practical application cookbook project, I think that the best one we have right now is this event registration app. The idea of the event registration app is that it pulls together all of the key features of CMS Hub Enterprise. It takes advantage of serverless functions and the ability to use serverless functions to write data back to HubDB. It takes advantage of HubDB for storing all of the events that you want to display on a website. It takes advantage of memberships to create a private area to be able to give customers the ability to see events that they've registered to attend. And then it also takes advantage of our local development workflow. And so I think it's a good example of all of these things kind of coming together and building a project. We also, all of the default themes are available to check out. So if you go into the developer docs website, there's a section on the default themes that has information on how to pull them down using the CLI. And those are also really interesting to take a look at. But I think that we're just getting started as far as these kinds of projects go. So we're definitely interested in hearing what kinds of things would be helpful for folks so that we can, help everyone get a head start.
Great, thanks. 6th question, I think we'll give this one to Will again. It would be very beneficial to set custom options and styles in drag and drop sections. For example, a boolean that can allow you to add an anchor link, etc. Is this in the cards?
Yeah, this is a really great question. And I think someone in the Q&A section asked something very similar. So yeah, we for those of you who don't know what this is talking about, we recently introduced the new D&D area Hubble syntax. Maybe John or AJ could share out a link to that. And it's a new syntax that supports the sort of brand new page editing experience that allows marketers and content creators to make layout and style and content tweaks all within the content editor and brings that drag and drop layer right to the page editor. And one of the elements in that new system is a concept called sections. And it's a lot of developers have been expressing the need to be able to put more customization into sections, such as adding fields for sections or classes or IDs to sections. And this is definitely something that we're actively thinking about. So we've been thinking about this concept of pre-built sections as part of the building blocks on the CMS. So something sort of in between modules and templates, where a developer could pre-configure a series of modules and some D&D area syntax to basically pre-configure this full width section of a page, like a hero section or a form section. And similar to modules, these pre-built sections could also have fields that go along with them, and any specific configurations that a developer might want to add to that section. So this is something that we're thinking about. I'd love to continue to hear about all of the use cases you'd like us to cover. We're definitely going to continue to flesh out the D&D area Hubble syntax and sort of the various building blocks that go along with it. So definitely continue to share your use cases and what you'd like to see out of that. But this is definitely something we're actively thinking about to try and see how we can make things more powerful developers and ultimately allow you to create the design system that you all want to create for the content creators you're building for.
Awesome. Next question. We've got a bunch of legacy templates in various states from various design manager revisions over the years. What is the migration story for CMS Hub? John, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So when it comes to themes, all of the functionality is additive. So the themes as a package concept, which ends up permeating when you're creating a new page, it'll show up as you pick a theme and then you pick the template that you're creating. That sort of functionality is added when you add the theme.json and fields.json to a folder, which then creates a theme. When you want to do things like adding theme fields themselves, if you are upgrading an old website that's pre-existing, you may not need to go super in depth with theme fields. This will depend on your project. But what I'm meaning with that is, say you already built a website and it's all styled up exactly to the brand standards of that company, then you probably don't really need the fields for changing colors or fonts, but you can add them if you want them. And then global partials. Global partials are huge. So the concept of global partials is that when a content creator is in the content editor or page editor, they can actually hover over, say, your header, your footer, or like a sidebar, these areas that are used globally throughout a website. And then when they hover over it, it'll say, hey, this is a global piece of content. They can click it, and then they can edit that portion, and they're made aware that those changes will affect the rest of the website. When it comes to drag and drop areas, again, this is an additive sort of feature. So you can create new templates that utilize D&D areas. You can also clone an existing, if you had old drag and drop area templates, old drag and drop design manager templates, you can clone those as HTML and create D&D areas in them that way. There's some documentation on our D&D areas page about doing that. Yeah, I think I've covered almost everything. Feel free to chime in if anyone caught anything I didn't.
Anyone? I think that was pretty thorough, John. Thank you so much. This is the last submitted question, then we're going to open up to live questions. I see there's a bunch coming in, so we'll try to get to them all. Final question, is there any consideration for two-way sync instead of just uploading changes used in Watch? This could be especially useful when a field is added to a module in the CMS, the meta.json and fields.json do not update locally. This will cause issues if you do not fetch your changes periodically. If not, is it safe to fetch your entire project before continuing local development? I believe, Gregory, you wanted to answer this one.
Sure, yeah, sorry, I was in the process of answering one of the QA questions. Yeah, so it's a good question because, at this stage, we were really focused on essentially the local first experience where all of your code, your source of truth for your code is your local computer or a version control system if you're collaborating, and making sure that worked. I think, over time, like, it does make sense for us to expand the sophistication of that local development set of tooling and provide more sophisticated synchronization between your machine and HubSpot. The thing that we just have to keep in mind, though, is that, like, not everyone is working for a company where there's only like one developer working on the files. If you are in a situation like that, it can be useful to use source control as a mechanism for collaboration and exploring.
All right, thanks. So we're going to hand it over now to live questions. So there were a few that came in earlier. We'll start with the first one from Larry Barker. How are we handling staging and production environments? Does anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, I can talk about this. I see there's like a duplicate question below asking about test and dev environments. So right now, the only real way to stage changes is using the buffer, and then you have to deploy out each buffer change individually. What my team has been looking into is the ability to provide like a QA or a test or a dev environment, and then be able to atomically deploy all of those assets between environments. So this is something we've been thinking about for a long time, and we're continuing work on that, but we definitely recognize the need to be able to push your changes up to HubSpot and not affect any live content, and be able to view and validate those changes before those go live. And when they do go live, you should be able to push them all live at the same time, as well as be able to roll back any changes just in case anything goes wrong. So we've been thinking a lot about this problem, and have been working towards that, making that a lot better.
And just one other thing that I'll add that quite a few developers do, and even some internal web development teams at HubSpot do, is they use the CMS developer sandbox accounts as sort of staging environments. So the CMS CLI makes it really easy to send your local code to different HubSpot accounts. And with everything being sort of path-based references, it's really easy to ship code between multiple accounts, and developers can have as many, or each developer could have their own sandbox account as sort of a staging environment. And then some teams of web developers will keep sort of a master in source control, and then don't ever make changes actually in the live production portal. They'll set up continuous integration with a GitHub repository. So basically master is what's live on a website.
Awesome, thanks. Next question is from Randy Mlanovich. HubSpot sites tend to load a lot of scripts that slow page loads and can have short header expires. Is there a way we can speed this up and extend expire times?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have engineers that specifically work on site speed improvements here. So I'm not entirely sure what our caching policy on default assets are, and it's hard to tell because there's so many different places that you could potentially include a script on your page. It could be an external source, it could be from the file manager, it could be from the design manager. So I'd have to look more into that before responding.
Well, I will say that we did recently publish a post on our blog all about, or on our developer blog all about site speed and page load time. So if someone on the panel can drop that link right now, that would be awesome. But feel free to check it out at developers.hubspot.com/blog, and it won't be too far down the page. Next question, and I see this one coming up a ton in the chat as well. I know we went through a React app boilerplate. Is there any plans in the works for Vue.js?
So I can take this one. One thing I saw in the chat, right, was there was a huge amount of interest in Vue and having essentially a boilerplate for Vue. And while I can make no promises, it sounds like a really good idea, right? So yeah, so I think that's definitely something that I would add to our to-do list.
Cool.
And I will say, you know, like what we're trying to do is make it possible that you can use really any library that you can when it comes to JavaScript and CSS, and be able to use it effectively inside of the CMS. And yeah, so like if there are stumbling blocks that you hit, like those are things we want to be able to address.
Cool, thank you. Another great question came in from Christopher Mathieu, and I said that correctly because I'm from Montreal. We're going to be switching out workflow to leverage themes soon. Seems great from what I've seen. My main concern is manually generating JSON for fields. How has this gone for people so far?
First of all, hey, Chris. I think if people, for folks who have been working with themes locally, why don't you post in chat sort of if you have any suggestions for how to best approach that. For those of you who don't know, developing theme fields can currently only be done through a JSON file similar to the local module fields JSON file. We've definitely heard that this can sometimes feel a little bit cumbersome for developers who don't want to be working with the JSON files. So one suggestion that I have is definitely check out all the code is available for the default themes. So that's a good place to get started from if you're looking for some sort of boilerplate options to get started from. And you could even develop your own boilerplate of fields that work really well for you all. But one of the things we're definitely going to be thinking about is how we can continue to make the local or file-based approach to a lot of these new concepts as intuitive and easy to pick up and use as possible. So we're definitely going to continue to refine what the local development experience for modules looks like, the local development experience for themes looks like. So keep us posted on any ideas you have, and we'll definitely be sharing any proof of concepts or thoughts that we have with you all, just to make that as easy as possible.
Great. A question from Jamie Welch. Using themes or the new D&D editing experience, is it now possible to append another section to a web page instead of having to create a separate template just to append another similar section? I find this is one of my largest templating limitations right now if I'm building from the design manager directly.
Yeah, this is a really great question. I think it's actually one of the best benefits of the new D&D area Hubble syntax. So one of the things that it opens up is sort of a one-to-many relationship from template to pages, as opposed to in the old world with drag and drop layouts. You sort of need to create a new drag and drop layout for a specific page you want to create. What's great now is you can basically have almost a header and footer in a drag and drop area body, and content creators and marketers can create any pages and layouts that they desire from that single template. So we're definitely moving towards a world where a single template can have a one-to-many relationship with the pages across your website. So I would definitely check out the brand new D&D area Hubble syntax. It sounds like it'd be great for sort of the pain point you're expressing there.
Great. Question from Daniel Rivera. Can we access contact properties using Hubble inside a React app module?
The answer is essentially yes. It's a little bit awkward, but it is possible. In fact, actually, the React boilerplate has an example of how you can essentially serialize JSON, which then your React app can load and use. Yeah, so it is possible. It's a little bit awkward, but it's possible.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes left, so I'm just sort of sorting through if anyone on the panel sees any questions that we feel like would be really great to get to before the hour winds up. I know there's a ton here. I'm going to go with George Thomas's question. Will we ever be able to add a CSS class or ID to a drag and drop section or a column? It is a must for so many reasons.
Yeah, this is a good question. I think I touched on this a little bit earlier to a certain extent with this concept of reusable sections that developers create. One thing that I will note is you can add classes to the D&D area tag in the template, but I'm guessing this question might be a little bit more geared towards being able to do it in the editor or something in the editor that allows marketers and content creators to add classes or specific sort of like chunks of CSS. Yeah, it looks like George confirmed that that's the case. Yeah, this is definitely something we're thinking about. Like I said, the reusable sections feature that we've been thinking a little bit about, to a certain extent, I think addresses this a little bit, where basically developers could add their own fields to the sections sort of building blocks. But this is definitely an ongoing conversation we're having right now. We want to make sure that there's sort of parity between what developers can do and what marketers can do. And also want to make sure we don't introduce things to the page editor that might be confusing or aren't clear what a marketer should do with them. So we're definitely continuing to talk about this and flesh out exactly what the experience is going to look like for both developers and marketers. But let's definitely touch base, George. I'd love to hear more about your use case. And hopefully we can continue to iterate on things and make it work for the use case there.
All right, thank you so much, Will. I know there was a ton more questions, and I'm really sorry that we didn't get a chance to get to all of them. We will be doing more of these, so please stay tuned to our blog. We'll be announcing future events there, as well as our developer newsletter that we're sending out monthly. We're still in pilot mode, trying to sort of figure out the best modalities for these community events. So if you have any feedback on what you'd like us to provide for you, our community, we'd be more than happy to hear from you. You can email me directly. That's sjmorris@hubspot.com, or you can reply to, participate in our Slack or forums. I've included some of those quick links here. We're going to send out an email of the recording with all of the links that we referenced. And we really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to our panelists as well.